Hello students. So now we're going to start with the sixth lesson, that is ocean resources. So the first thing what we want to know is basically there are many nations which are right now studying or involved in the study of ocean uh, with the help of eco sounder technique. And these map makers with this technique started to make began to make different maps on different ocean flows. Now here basically ocean resources is somewhere it's giving us information about the ocean depths and something which is teeming with life found in them. There is some life within the oceans, the living organisms, the marine organisms. So we are going to study about the different in ocean depths. There's a lot of information about these resources and what kind of life and what are the hazards, what are the ways we can protect these oceans and all of that, the different kinds of oceanic islands and what are the uses of these ocean islands we are going to come across. So basically, when we start with ocean resources, what is it telling us? During discussion in the 15th century, only a small part of the whole world was known. Later on, besides Europeans, the navigators basically, they from other parts of the world also sailed around the world and collected information about new lands. The scientific study of oceans began in the 19th century, early 19th century. In this period, an important voyage, a trip, students, basically, of discovery took place between 1872 and 1876, when the British ship Challenger sailed around the world. It brought about information about the ocean depths and the life found in them. In 1920s, the eco sounder came into regular use. As I told you, through this technique, the map makers started to begin studying different ocean flows, and then many nations got involved in it. So, with the help of this technique, the map makers began to map different ocean flows. Today, many nations are involved in the study of oceans. Now, there is, you all have studied in your previous classes, especially the science students, they you all know about sonar, the sound, lesson sound, it had this typical thing. The echo sound is a type of sonar. Sonar, full form of sonar is sound navigating and ranging device. What is it used for? It is used to determine the depth of the seabed or detecting objects. Detecting means what kind of different objects can be seen in deep water by measuring the time taken for sound echoes to travel. So this is some information regarding sonar. The full form of sonar is sound navigation and ranging device. So we are going to come to the structure of the ocean floor with this. So before we come to the structure of the ocean floor, let's understand each and every part of the ocean floor or the structure, the continental shelf, the continental slope, and the abyssal plains. Now recall the relief of the ocean floor and its parts such as the continental shelf, the continental slope, the abyssal plain, and deeps or trenches. You'll have studied this in your junior classes. These days, not only are there surface or coastal areas of the ocean exploited means overused, misused, but even advanced research is being carried out to see how the deeper part of the ocean can be useful to mankind. Now, when we talk about the continental shelf here is the portion of the continents that is submerged. Submerged means the part of the continent which is underwater and borders the coastal areas is known as continental shelf. The continental shelf is of great importance to man. This part occupies about 7.6% of the ocean area. They are broad, shallow, and gently sloping plains covered by water. So they are shallow waters basically. And they are near the borders of the coastal areas. The continental shelf does not extend into the ocean uniformly, means it's not the same. Near some coasts, it is narrow, while in some parts it may extend for hundreds of kilometers. For example, they are almost absent or very narrow along the coast of Chile, Sumatra, while the Siberian coast near the Arctic Ocean is around 1500 kilometers in width. Generally, its depth from the sea level is about 180 to 200 meters. As the sunlight reaches this part, that's the continental shelf of the ocean bed, it is rich in plankton. I will be talking about plankton and zooplankton and phytoplankton, all of those in detail in the next class. These millions of microscopic organisms found in seawater are an important food for fish. Millions of fishes thrive here. The shelf has some of the richest fishing grounds in the world, such as the Grand Banks and the George Banks in North America. In fact, the fish caught in the continental shelf form the backbone of fisheries industries the worldwide. Now, if you all, as I'm reading it out to you all, what is a continental shelf, you all can understand what is it important, what is its importance, wherein the fisheries are concerned, the industry is concerned, how is it stretched, where all it is stretched, and how is it an important food for fish, wherein in this ocean bed it is rich in plankton. Plankton is basically something which is important food for fish. The continental shelves contain the world's largest reservoirs of natural oil and gas. So continental shelf also has the largest reservoirs of gas and natural oil. For example, the Mumbai High and Arabian Sea. Besides oil and gas, minerals are also found here. So there are different minerals. There is natural oil and gas in Mumbai High and Arabian Sea. The concentrated minerals means in a certain area, the minerals are concentrated and in large quantities to be mineable. Examples are, now what kind of minerals and deposits can be found? Chromite, elementite, magnetite, diamonds, platinum, gold, and phosphorite deposits. Sand, gravel, aggregates altogether, and industrial silica sand are the most important of hard minerals now extracted in the near offshore zone. So all of these minerals are also extracted in the near offshore slope. Next, we come to the structure of the ocean floor, that is the continental slope. After the extent of the continental shelf, when the continental shelf, students, gets over, the continental slope starts. So there is sharp drop in the ocean floor. The gradient of slope in this region can be 2 degrees to 5 degrees. This is called the continental slope. The depth of this slope extends. The depth means how deep it is. It extends from 200 meters up to 4000 meters from sea level. Due to its steepness, the depth, the continental slope stretches over a limited area. Now, the deposition of sediments is limited in continental slope. The continental slopes are generally considered as boundaries of continents. So, they are considered as boundaries of continents. And there is limited sediments deposition over here. It covers how much total ocean area? 8.5%. Methane hydrate, I told you all what is methane. It is a compound of water and methane hydrate. Methane hydrate is a compound of water and methane and is present in the continental slope. Example, the Krishna Godavari offshore basin covering an area of 1400 square kilometers is rich in methane hydrate. On the slope, we find many traces of submarine landslide activities, ocean canyons, and huge avalanche fans. For example, the Congo Canyon is a submarine canyon found near Africa. So the two ocean floors, what I spoke to you all about, is continental shelf and continental slope. As and how we come across the different slides, I will show you all. We'll just do a brief introduction again of continental slope and shelf, and I want you all to be aware of what it is exactly. Then the third one is the abyssal plains. Beyond the continental slope lies the abyssal plains. So first is the continental slope, then little lower is the the continental shelf is the first one, the second one below it is continental slope, and beyond the continental slope lies the abyssal plains. They stretch over great distances. Over these plains there are features such as seamounts, mountains and plateaus. So if you see, each of these ocean floors have its own characteristics and has its own identification and importance. They have gentle slope and cover about 66% of the oceanic floor area. The relief of the plain is produced by volcanic and tectonic activities. So there are volcanic and tectonic activities which take place in abyssal plains. Other components of the abyssal plain sediment include wind-blown dust, volcanic ash, all the ash which comes out through the volcanoes is over here, the chemical precipitates, the different kinds of precipitates which are chemical formations, and occasional meteorites fragments. The abyssal plains are often littered. The abyssal plains are often littered means they are here and there with nodules of what? Manganese. Manganese. They contain manganese, containing varying amounts of iron and nickel. Now I'll come to continental shelf. What we understood of continental shelf, again, they are slightly inclined inundated zone forming borders of continents. Then when we talk about the second point, they are gently sloped to the depth of up to 200 meters, which varies with the slope. It can vary with the slope. It is almost absent in the Pacific Ocean. So continental shelf is almost absent in the Pacific Ocean. Most of marine food is available here. As I read out to you all from the textbook, plankton, which is a food for fish, and it is important for the fishing industry. Growth and reproduction of marine life is possible. They are richest fishing grounds. So if it's rich in fishing grounds, so fisheries and fishing industry is going to prosper here. There's potential mining sites. So when we spoke about the potential mining sites, we read about, I told you all about the Mumbai High Arabian Sea. It's rich in oil, gas, minerals, different kinds of minerals are found. Ilmenite, magnetite, platinum, chromite, gold, and diamonds are found. Then there is sand, gravel, aggregates, and industrial silica. There's potential. There are large stores of sand and gravel, which are industrial sand and gravel, and industrial silica, which is most expensive, most important of hard minerals, which is extracted. Now, this is the diagrammatic form which you all can associate with and understand it. How is it placed? The continental shelf is the extended perimeter of each continent and associated coastal plain, and was part of the continent during the glacial periods, but is undersea during interglacial periods. Now coming to continental slope. When I spoke to you all about continental slope, what did I tell you all? It comes after, it is a sharp drop in the ocean floor, and after the extent of continental shelf, the continental slope comes. And it is a region that is between 2 degrees to 5 degrees, sorry. The depth is how much? From 200 meters to 4,000 meters. It covers how much percent of total ocean area? 8.5% of total ocean area. All of that. It has very less deposition of sediments, and they are considered as boundaries of continents. Let us get some more information about continental slope. Continental slope, the descending slope which connects the sea floor to the continental shelf. This is still considered to be a part of the continent. Look at the diagrammatic form. You all can see there is a descending, there is a slope, declining slope. If you all look at the diagram after the continental shelf. So it connects the sea floor to the continental shelf. This is considered to be part of a continent. That is why it is also called as considered as the boundaries of continents. What more can we understand of continental slope? The edges of the continental shelf. Basically, it is called the edge of the continental shelf. It becomes steeper. It extends up to depth of 3,660 meters. Beyond the slope lies continental rise. Now, after the slope lies the continental rise. Here, what happens? The area of gentle slope with low relief, with increasing depth, it becomes flatter and eventually merges with the abyssal plain. So we've finished getting more knowledge about continental shelf and continental slope. Now we move on to abyssal plains. Abyssal plains, as I told you all, what is the, when I told you all about this, it covers 66% of the oceanic floor. It stretches over great distances. Here you can see seamounts, mountains and plateaus. They have a gentle slope. Here what do you see? It is produced, this relief of the plain is produced by volcanic and tectonic activities. It includes wind-blown dust, plain sediment, volcanic ash, chemical precipitates. Okay, and there are different. They are littered with manganese or nodules of manganese. Now, what more can we understand about the abyssal plains? It it begins where the continental slope ends and the abyssal plains begin. See students, continental shelf ends, continental slope starts. Continental slope ends, abyssal plain starts. Almost flat areas with gentle gradient. The depth varies from 3600 to 6000 meters. The extensive areas covering 40% of total ocean flows. It's present in all major seas and oceans. A large flat area of the deep ocean floor. Look at the abyssal plain. This will give you all a brief idea about the abyssal plain. How does it look? This is another diagram. You all can see where is the continental shelf placed, where is the continental slope, and this is the abyssal plain. When we talk about the abyssal plain, it is the flat. See, if you look at this diagram and relate it to what am I saying over here, almost flat areas with gentle gradient. It is a flat area with gentle gradient. Continental rise. Now, when I talk about continental rise, a gentle slope with a generally smooth surface built up by the shedding of sediments from the continental block and located between the continental slope and the abyssal plain. Now, when we talk about this continental rise, this is a brief information about a continental rise. Where does it lie or where is it located? It is located between the continental slope and the abyssal plain. So, this is basically actually not there in your textbook, but this is a part of your knowledge wherein it completes the whole structure of the ocean floor. So where is it located? It is located between the continental slope and the abyssal plain. It is basically a gentle slope with a smooth surface by shedding of sediments from the continental block. If you look at the abyssal plain over here, you will very well see where the continental rise is. So this diagram will give you a better idea of what is a continental rise. Now when we come to this, the abyssal plains are often littered with nodules of manganese containing varying amounts of iron, nickel, cobalt and copper. These pea to potato size nodules, means these nodules, these small portions are of pea or potato size, are formed by the precipitation of minerals from the seawater. So due to the precipitation of the minerals of the seawater onto bones or rock fragments, currently the deposit of manganese nodules are not being mined. Currently, what is the situation? These manganese nodules are not being mined from the ocean floor, but it is possible that they could be collected and used in future. Next one is, the fourth one is, we are talking about the ocean trenches. Now, what are the ocean trenches here? At places deep, narrow and steeply sloping depressions are found on the ocean floor. These are called ocean deeps or ocean trenches. Generally, the shallow ones are called deeps, whereas the deeper ones are called ocean trenches. So let us understand the difference between the deep and ocean trenches. Again, there are sloping depression, students, which are found on the ocean floor. They are called ocean deeps or ocean trenches. The shallow ones are the deep ones, and the deeper ones are called the ocean trenches. The oceanic trenches are the deepest parts of the oceans. They are the deepest parts of the oceans. These trenches can be thousands of meters deep. They generally occur along the plate boundaries and are associated with active volcanoes and strong earthquakes. So these trenches are basically occurring because of the plate boundaries due to active volcanoes and strong earthquakes. So it's prone to volcanoes and earthquakes. Which is the famous trench? The Mariana Trench in the Pacific Ocean is around 11 kilometers deep, while the Java Trench in the Indian Ocean is around 7.7 kilometers deep. The knowledge of ocean trenches is limited because of their depth and their remoteness. Let me see if I have a slide of Mariana Trench, I guess. Yes, it is there. Now see, look at this first. Where is the trench over here? There's the lithosphere, there's the asthenosphere, and there's the continental crust, the oceanic crust. So the trench is over there in the blue, shaded in the blue. This is the Mariana Trench. This Mariana Trench is a famous trench in the Pacific Ocean, which is the deepest trench, which is around 11 kilometers, while the Java Trench, there are two trenches, the Mariana Trench in the Pacific and Java Trench in Indian Ocean, which are 11 kilometers and 7.7 kilometers deep, respectively. So this over here, it is showing in 11,035 meters, which is below sea level. Now, oceanic ridges and plateaus. Oceanic ridges and plateaus, basically, the submerged mountains on the ocean floor are called oceanic ridges, which are underwater. The underwater mountains on the ocean floor are called oceanic ridges. They are hundreds of kilometers wide and they extend for thousands of kilometers. Some oceanic ridges have flat, extensive tops. These are called oceanic plateaus. For example, Chagos Plateau in Indian Ocean. At places, the peak of oceanic ridges appears above the ocean surface. These are called oceanic islands. Now, there are different types of continental islands, volcanic islands, and coral islands. Which are those continental islands? Continental islands are Madhya Sagar Islands, southwestern Indian Ocean. Volcanic islands are the Hawaiian Islands in the Pacific Ocean. The coral islands, which are Aldabara Islands, which is in the Indian Ocean. Seamounts are isolated habitats. Isolated means it's like there's no habitation. It's at a remote place that have evolved, which have grown now over millions of years, and they support communities having a high degree of endemism. Studies have shown that organisms found near islands and seamounts have been new to science. Basically, this is a new discovery wherein new different organisms have been found, and whenever they are discovered, they are tested for research. So studies have shown that organisms found near islands and seamounts have new to science whenever they are discovered or tested for research. These properties make seamounts of special ecological significance, and they are of particular interest to conservationists and environmentalists. See, they are helping the ecosystem in some way. So definitely they are of interest to the environmentalists and the conservationists. Okay. So this is we've spoken about oceanic ridges and plateaus. Besides, now when I talk about the mid-oceanic ridges, what is a mid-oceanic ridge? A mid-oceanic ridge is found near the center. This is some more added information. How do we understand it more nicely? It is found near the center of most ocean basins. It is an interconnected system of underwater mountains, means the underwater mountains are called the mid-oceanic ridges. that have developed or newly formed oceanic crust. Seafloor spreading. What is seafloor spreading? This is a new term. It is a process by which the plate tectonics produces new oceanic lithosphere at ocean ridges. New ocean floor is formed at mid-oceanic ridges as magma rises between the diverging plates and cools. Yes, this is a feature of the ocean floor where in this lecture, I completed the continental shelf, the mid-oceanic ridge I spoke about, the seamounts I told you all, what is the oceanic trench, continental slope, abyssal plains. Besides the oceanic relief features described above, features such as canyons, valleys are also found on the ocean floor. You can now understand the similarity between these features and landforms on the Earth surface. So in this, what points we've covered, basically we've studied the structure of the ocean floor. I started off with what is the echo sounder technique, which these map makers have started to use and developing maps based on this echo sound technique, that is sonar, sound navigating and ranging device. There's a history behind it, wherein the discovery which took place between 1872 and 1876, when the British ship Challenger sailed around the world. And in 1920s, the echo sounder came into use. Now, then we went on to the structure of the oceanic floor, where I spoke to you all about the continental shelf. How is it important? Sand and gravel aggregates are found. Different kinds of minerals are found. It is rich in plankton. It's a richest fishing ground in the world. It is the backbone for fishing industries. It occupies 7.6% of the oceanic area. Then we covered continental slope, which can be between 2 degrees to 5 degrees, and it is after the extent of the continental shelf. The depth is 200 meters up to 4,000 meters. It stretches only over a limited area and there are limited sediments. It covers about 8.5% of total ocean area, and which is the compound of water and methane found over here, methane hydrate, which is present in continental slopes. The next one what I covered was abyssal plains. What is the abyssal plains? After the continental slope comes the abyssal plains. It is the flat surface with gradients, okay? And they stretch over great distances as compared to continental slope. They have seamounts, they have mountains, and they have plateaus. Next, they cover about 66% of the oceanic floor. Here, basically, what is produced here from the relief? Volcanic and tectonic activities. What does it include? Wind-blown dust, ash, and all of that. And what do you find here? Basically, the nodules of manganese, which right now is not being mined from the ocean, but in future it can be used. The fourth structure of the oceanic floor is the oceanic trenches. It is divided into two parts, ocean deeps and ocean trenches. The shallow ones are the deeps and the deeper ones are the ocean trenches, which is, I showed you all a slide, which is the famous trench or the deepest trench. That's the Mariana Trench in the Pacific Ocean, which is about 11 kilometers, and Indian Ocean Java Trench, which is 7.7 kilometers deep. So they are basically known for their depth. The fifth structure of the ocean floor is oceanic ridges and plateaus. So when I spoke to you all about the oceanic ridges, they are submerged mountains. Just relate to that, oceanic ridges and plateaus have submerged mountains and they are called oceanic ridges. They are wide and spread out for till thousands of kilometers. There's a famous Chagos Plateau in Indian Ocean, which is a ridge. And there are different kinds of islands, continental islands, volcanic islands, and coral islands. Different examples were given. Then there are seamounts. When we talk about seamounts, in this figure you all can see how is a seamount placed. They are isolated habitats that have evolved slowly over a million of years, and they support communities. Now they are new for study or new to science, and they have been discovered or tested for research. There is no past evidence about these seamounts, and these properties make seamounts of special ecological significance. So they have special ecological significance, and they are of particular interest to conservationists and environmentalists. So this all is covered basically. The structure of the ocean floor is covered in the first class. The next class we'll be talking about the next topic, that's ocean resources and all what comes under that. Thank you, class.